Now, we did have Goldman Sachs CEO David Solomon. He's been DJing a lot, but he went on CNBC this morning. One, he said, Bitcoin and Ethereum, I don't own either one of them. Okay. Second thing he said was, I have no opinion about them. Okay. And the third thing was basically, we like blockchain technology and we're going to go because we like digitization of finance. Let me get this straight. We have a multi-billion-dollar financial institution. You're the CEO. You're the most important person. You're the key decision maker. This is the fastest growing segment of finance. It's the fastest growing adoption of any financial technology in history. It's gone from $0 to $1 trillion. Some of these assets are worth more than your entire bank, and you have no opinion? Even if you hate it, or you love it, or you're anywhere in between. No opinion? Come on. I don't think very many people believe that. And if you told me that, hey, look, he's trying to be politically correct, he's trying to actually prevent having to put out an opinion because he's negative against it, and somebody internally has said, hey, maybe you don't want to be negative or bearish on these assets in public, that's fine. But I don't think anyone sitting at home listening to the CEO of Goldman Sachs say that they have no opinion on the fastest growing segment of their industry, the most disruptive sector. Literally, people are quitting their jobs at Goldman Sachs to go and work in this industry. You have no opinion? Maybe you need to get an opinion to actually stop the bleeding and to go ahead and make sure you embrace the technology so that you don't get disrupted.
I mean, Goldman Sachs went from being a $100 billion bank to $130 billion over the last decade. Bitcoin went from 0 to $1 trillion. So you're getting laughed, buddy. You might want to start paying attention.
Yeah. And by the way, I actually don't believe that they believe what they're saying. I do believe that if you're the CEO of a large institution, you have to appease your legacy clients because they make up the bulk of your revenue today. And you don't get points for being right in advance in the market on your balance sheet. Nobody said, oh, he was bullish on Bitcoin early, right? And so therefore he gets points. You do, however, lose clients if you start talking about something that ends up going to zero. If you're known as the Bitcoin guy or the Ethereum guy or the crypto guy or whatever, and you're out there on public national television talking about this stuff, and then it ends up going to zero, all of a sudden clients are calling up and they're saying, hey man, you're supposed to be the risk mitigation here. You're supposed to be protecting my assets. You're supposed to be the conservative guy in the room. What are you doing talking about this stuff that ended up being a zero? So at some point, it's a career protection and a legacy business protection, and you can still go operate and build this stuff. We know that Goldman Sachs has a team that's working on this stuff. So ultimately, what they're saying one thing, but they're doing something else. Just look at what they're doing. Obviously, they're bullish on this stuff. Somebody in the business, maybe it's not Solomon, maybe it's somebody else, but somebody is bullish on it in the business because they actually have a team dedicated to working on this stuff. And it's just a question of what are they going to do when they're going to do it and how successful it will be.
It's not really surprising to me that he doesn't own it, though. I don't know. I think because at the end of the day, is it really gonna, does it provide that much upside for him? You know what I mean? Yeah, sure, owning the asset is important, understanding it is important, all that kind of stuff. But I feel like it adds legitimacy to it from his perspective that is unneeded for him personally, right? He's already the CEO of a massive bank. He's super wealthy. He doesn't need to make sure he's at this new frontier, right? From a business standpoint, yes, you absolutely need to be concerned about it and all this kind of stuff. But personally, I don't think he manages his own portfolio, right? Most of it's probably made up of equity within financial services and things that he operates in. So it's not really surprising that he doesn't own the asset specifically because at the end of the day, that just opens up the door for many more questions, people to ask him a bunch of different things, and people to assume his position on it rather than actually listen to him.
So the other thing that's important here is when you don't have a massive balance sheet, so let's say the everyday American, you have to be early because you need tons and tons of asymmetry, right? In order to kind of change your financial position. These large asset managers don't need to be first. They just need to be right. And what I mean by that is, let's use Anthony Scaramucci and Skybridge as an example, right? Anthony Scaramucci, I would say, was cautiously optimistic. He was like, look, I don't really understand this completely. It sounds interesting. There's a lot of smart people working on it, but I'm going to kind of wait and see what happens here, right? And then at some point, really in kind of 2020, he got deep conviction. He said, hey, this is going to be a thing. We want to be at the forefront of it. We're going to go and transform our business. And so when he went ahead and did that, if I remember the numbers correctly, they bought $400 million worth of Bitcoin across their kind of assets. And so now it's worth about $1 billion. So if you think of that just in kind of rounded, generalized numbers, they invested $400 million. They've made $600 million. They've made more money on Bitcoin than almost majority, if not all, early investors in Bitcoin who are putting $1,000, $10,000, $50,000, even $100,000 into Bitcoin. So if you have a small balance sheet, you have to be early because you have to get the asymmetry. You have to front run the big run. So you need asymmetry. If you've got a large balance sheet, you don't have to do that. You can put large amount of capital to work. And yes, on a multiple basis, maybe he's only up 250%, but they have, from a aggregate return standpoint, a lot of return that ends up being outsized compared to what retail does.